Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your... Wait, no, hold on. We got this backwards. You're supposed to start. Fuck!
Supposed to start.
Shit.
You wrote it!
Oh, I did write it. Wait, is it actually... Did I actually get it backwards? Oh my god, you're right.
You tell me.
Okay, well, to restart, rewind.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your witch from Mercury, Renu.
And I'm your Zarok Soup.
This week, AD stands for Absolute Territory because we'll be wrapping up the fall 2022 season. Yay! But before we get into that, what have we been up to? It's been so long since you and I have touched base on our lives with each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah.
I feel like it rather is important a little bit to address the fact that the anniversary episode went up, and it went up 3 months into 2023. That is, I mean, to be honest, that's a little unconscionable. That's like a fourth of the way into 2023. Like that's a little silly. But no, I mean, I've been fucking busy, so a lot of the time, like I just haven't really even been home. Like I've been like going to places to visit, family and stuff. I saw that you just wrote in Blue Lock here.
I did.
Yeah, I assumed that you watched the rest of it, and
yes.
Yeah, 'cause
I mean, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, but yeah, I have really, I feel like a lifetime has sort of passed since the last time we recorded the podcast. And there is some stuff that I'm not gonna get into because it's just family stuff, right? There's some I've just been doing the circuit, it's always, the holiday season, you go and you see your family. Obviously I talked about that a little bit when in the 2022 Wrapup episode and on the anniversary episode. But I came back from that trip. That trip was fine. It was pretty good. It was pretty wild actually because I happened to go when Portland got hit by like a snap like storm. A snap like snowstorm. So like, we got in and it's like really, really fucking cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like 19 or so degrees, sort of ambiently, but because of the wind, it felt like 6 degrees. So it was really cold. I'm really glad we bundled up for that one. And then like, we get there and we hang out for the first day. We go to sleep. And then in the morning, it has snowed. Like the city is now under a blanket of snow, and that was like all of a sudden. It was so wild.
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah, and it was good and bad because like some places weren't prepared for it, so like they just had to close for the day. Like the shipments were late and stuff. It was pretty wild, like walking around trying to find something to eat. Just like anything that was open. But it turned out to be a pretty good trip. I made another trip to visit some family in February. Yeah. And like January, I don't even remember January really. Like I legitimately could not tell you what happened in that time. But yeah, I mean, like, it's been a whirlwind for me, I would say,
Yeah.
What about you?
Me, I had what an adventurous holiday I had. So it started off, right? I was driving to my relative's house, which is a very long drive. It's like 16 hours, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Clover with me. We were driving in our SUV, and you know, things were going fine. I was about, oh no, it was 12 hours away. Sorry. I was about 4 hours out from my brother's house
Mm-hmm.
when we hit a patch of black ice on the highway.
Oh shit! Oh my god!
Yeah, I kid you not. Our car, like one second was on the road, and the next split second was off the road. That's how quick it was that we were we went on and off, right? And we we hit the cable barrier on the left side of the road, which thankfully was there, so it slowed down the speed of the car a lot, but we were still like going at like highway speeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so since it did slow us down, but the problem is because we came at an angle, we bounced off of it. The car then careens across both lanes of the highway onto the right side of the highway.
Oh my god!
And into the grass on the right side. And so then the grass is like kind of like frost covered. It was I remember now. It was the day before Christmas Eve.
Okay, yeah.
And it was that day when the temperature dropped across the country by like, I don't know, like a good like 40 to 50 degrees.
Yeah.
And so that's why like the ice just suddenly formed, like, you know, in spots like on the highway and stuff, but it hadn't been salted yet. And so like there was ice on the left side and on the right side. So we got it, we like slid into the grass, and thankfully by that point a lot of the speed had been taken out of the car. But we were then headed directly to the tree line, and I was like, "Oh crap, we're gonna smash into the freaking trees if I don't do something." And so like I was like counter steering as best I could, but you know, there's so little that you can do at that point. But thankfully, it was like just enough that we were able to kind of like go in at a less severe angle, and so we kind of like slid in, and then just before the car had like come to a full stop, we like bumped into this tiny little tree that like it was fast enough that like there was like an indent in the front of the car, but like you know, like it wasn't hard enough that like the engine like smashed into you know the front compartment or anything like that. Yeah,
that is truly my nightmare.
I
hate that.
Crazy. Yeah, and what was even crazier is that like the car looked absolutely totaled, right? But like everything inside the car was totally fine, including, of course, like Clover and I, we were okay. No injuries or anything like that. And like I even had like I had my convention stuff in the car, because I had a convention that was coming up a month after that, and I was just gonna stay over, you know, with my folks until then. And then I had also gotten like a little Christmas cake for my brother.
Jesus Christ.
And it was like it looked a little jostled, but it was actually okay. And there was also like a little like, you know, there was also like a non-alcoholic like little sparkling wine bottle next to it, and that was also okay. Like everything in the car was fine, including us. It's just the outside of the car was like just a mangled disaster, because like the entire left side of the car was like almost scraped off by the cable barrier, and then the top side had been scraped by the trees, and then of course the front side got smashed by the tree. But it was like so lucky, right? Because first of all, we were okay, and second of all, there wasn't anyone in that particular like section of the highway while we were driving. Like there were people like really far ahead of us, and there were some people like pretty far behind us. So like when we got sent across the highway, we didn't like, thankfully we didn't end up like hitting anyone. And there was like it was like before I'd even gotten out of the car, there were a bunch of people that had stopped by, and they were like, you know, asking if we were okay. They were calling the police for us. It was really nice. This is one dude who was calling the cops, and he was like clearly not dressed for the weather. Like he was clearly dressed to stay inside his car, because he was like in like a white t-shirt and jeans.
Oh my god.
I felt so bad. He was shaking so bad while he was helping to call the cops, and I was like, bless this man, he's so nice. I was so out of it. I like called my brother because I was like, I don't know what to do, and then, you know, he helped me like walk me through what I needed to do to stay safe. And I was like, the car is kind of smoking, and he's like, is the key still in the ignition? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, turn off the car, like, take out the keys. And I was like, okay, I did that. And then the smoke died down. And he's like, are you warm? Are you able to stay in the car? And I was like, yeah. And, so he was really patient and calm throughout the whole process, which helped me a lot. And then, we got the car eventually, like, towed and had that whole debacle. But basically, the car would have costed, like, $10,000 to repair.
Oof.
So yeah, we just ended up like selling it at a salvage yard.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, like
Yeah.
a car being like having to fix the car is
Yeah.
worth so much more than like just buying a new car.
Exactly.
Like, even just like a used car on like Craigslist or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pretty old car too, so it wasn't like the problem. The thing I kick myself over is that like to prepare for this trip, I had like upgraded a ton of stuff. I had even gotten the inspection pass.
No.
Oil change, new battery, like, and I was gonna get new tires too. And
that sucks. That
yeah,
sucks.
yeah. But it's all right. Like the car did like keep us safe. Like despite
Yeah. I mean, as long as you're okay, like a car is replaceable.
Right. Exactly.
However, this story does remind me of one of my friends had a car that was so old and so depreciated in value that like I think like a garbage truck or like a car or something like drove too close to his car and like scraped like basically from like bumper to bumper, like end to end, like just one big scratch across the whole car, and it was completely cosmetic, right? No damage to the car other than the cosmetic damage. But because the car was worth so little, it was considered totaled, right?
What?
Right? So the car was completely functional, but because the amount of money it would take to repair the damage to it was more than the car was worth, like that is the criteria for your car being considered totaled, right? So his car was totaled and it worked fine, and I think he still drove it around for a while after that. But that is the story I always think of when we talk about a car being totaled. Also, the time that I flew back from a convention and the next day I woke up and my dad was like, "So your sister totaled your car, right?" And like that was the first I had heard of it at that point, right? So I was like, "But I gotta drive today." Like he's like, "It's fine, you can use my car." I'm like, "It's fine, okay, I guess." But anyway, I'm glad you're safe. That's a fucking wild story. I mean, it seems like we traded sort of places this year, because last year I had the really intense Christmas.
You did. You had a wild winter. Yeah. But other than that, the holidays were spectacular. Like I got a lot of family time. A lot of friend time. Yeah. The convention I was going to was MagFest over in Maryland. That was so good. I definitely want to go there again because it was a lot of fun. Yeah. I got to meet a ton of like indie developers and stuff like that, because a lot of them go to that convention to, premiere their games and stuff like that. There's a huge like music scene there too.
Oh, nice.
It's technically like a music and gaming festival. But there's like anime stuff there too, and that's why I can sell my stuff there as well. It was a ton of fun, and Skytoon Network was also there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that was really fun.
Nice. Did you get to say, hey, you wrote the
I
opening
didn't
for
get
our
to see them
podcast?
in person. Oh, I feel so
sad.
bad. Yeah, every time I went by their booth, they weren't there, and so I was like,
Ah, damn.
Yeah,
that would've
one
been
day.
Great. One day.
Yeah, I'd like to meet them one day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. That's basically it. I mean, it's been pretty uneventful otherwise outside of the holidays. Yeah.
Your story did remind me, speaking of extreme weather conditions, California has been kind of going through it the last month. It has, like, the sort of winter season this year has been really wild. We keep hitting, like, like atmospheric river after atmospheric river, and, we got pelted with, like, a ton of rain just nonstop for like 2 weeks, and it, obviously it wasn't enough to completely fix the drought, but it did sort of replenish the reservoirs to a certain degree. But this week, we got news that we're gonna be hit by another one, which is like, oh, okay. The wildest thing has been the weather is like really weird, right? Because we have all these atmospheric rivers coming through. It's raining like all the time. Very un-California like, at least for the past like decade, right? You get one sort of rain like storm every like 4 years, I think, probably, like ever since we started getting the big boy droughts. But the weirdest thing has been the fact that the peculiar weather conditions have made it so that it's snowing in places where it just like shouldn't be snowing. Right? So they're like, literally I can look outside and look up at the hills and the mountains that I can see, that like the very tallest mountains I can see have snow on top of them, and like it's not impossible for them to have snow on top of them. Like it can happen, but like the amount of snow is a little bit absurd. And like there's places in California that are getting completely snowed in, which is sometimes you remember that California is very mountainous. A lot of people don't actually know that. I realized California, for people that don't live in the United States and aren't like hyper aware of the sort of climate of California, right? Obviously there is the sort of like LA beach Hollywood climate, but California basically has contained within it like pretty much almost every climate that you can find, right? We got deserts and mountains, and we even have some tundras. We got lots of forests and all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, this much snow, especially in places like Southern California where it has been coming down, is like really weird. The other day I was, in San Jose, and it just started hailing all of a sudden. I was like, this is weird. This is weird.
Well, I hope you're enjoying every season all at once.
Yeah, it really feels like I'm getting every season all at once. To be honest with you, I'm kind of done being cold. It's like cold all the time. I want it to be warm. Like I'm ready for summer,
Yeah, that's how I felt too. Even though like we both are pretty like anti-cold people. Neither of us, I don't think, really enjoy living in the north or dealing with snow and ice.
I mean, I'm not really a hot weather person either. I like when it's like quite mild.
Sure.
And I do enjoy when it is colder outside. It just has been it's just been cold like for a while now, so I'm just like, I'm done. Like if it's too cold and like rainy and dark, I just get sleepy. Like I can't muster the motivation to do anything. I just want to burrow in bed and sleep.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. Especially like for me, it's like my fine motor reflexes slow down, and so it becomes so hard to draw when it's cold, and that is what drives me crazy.
Yeah. You gotta get those hand warmers and like the gloves and
right, exactly.
You gotta get all set up like you're an esports gamer.
Is that how they do it? I gotta look that up.
That's how they do it. That's how the pros do it. They got those hand warmers to clutch between rounds. Shaka. Yeah, hand warmers came in real clutch this Christmas when I was in Oregon. It was fucking cold the first couple days.
Oh.
It warmed up quite a bit after that though. Like once it started raining, like it was a normal temperature. It like wasn't that bad at all. But the first couple days, man, it was fucking freezing. Especially coming from California. Like even like California gets like kind of cold, but like, man, it was 6 degrees is what it felt like.
Right, it's
according
cold,
to
definitely
according
super
to the
cold.
weather.
Yeah, for California, very cold.
Very, very cold. Anyway, wild Christmas holiday season aside, shall we talk about the anime? Shall we do the wrap up?
Yes, I'm so excited.
Nice. All right. feel like this is pretty funny because a lot of the stuff that we covered in the end of the year wrap up was from this season.
Yes.
So and personally, I didn't watch much more than that. I can see that you watched a couple more things, but
Yeah.
I suspect that this episode may be a little bit on the shorter side, which would be good, honestly. So Spy X Family second season. Oh my God, this felt like this feels like so long ago because like at this point,
right?
at this point, this finished airing like midway through December, maybe. Like it was over like a long time ago from our perspective here recording right now. And I mean it was good. It was good. The animation continues to be very cute. You get a lot of the kind of like meat of the slice of life stuff that happens in those arcs that are happening in Spy X Family. I suspect that the next couple seasons, which will inevitably come out, right, are gonna be a little bit heavier on the plot, but in the first place, Spy X Family, as far as the manga goes, is fairly episodic, all things considered. Like there is a little bit of rolling momentum episode to episode, but like a lot of the stories tend to be pretty self-contained. But yeah, I mean it's good, it's cute. It is about a family, and they all lie to each other about what they do.
I mean, if you like the first season, then you're bound to like the second season. I will say that the second season has the introduction of the most, important character, which is Bond, the dog.
Yes, that is true. I can't believe they waited till the second season to introduce. But I mean, it's fine. It worked out. But like,
yes,
best character, Bond, the dog.
Yes, so that's something to look forward to in the second season. If you like
goes
the first
borf.
one.
He's a borf.
He big borf.
He's a borfer. He's a borfer. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you don't need us to tell you what Spy X Family is. Like, it was only one of the biggest anime that aired in the season that it came out. It just so happened that the second season of it aired in the same season as the third season of Mob Psycho 100, another Gundam series, and then Chainsaw Man and Bocchi the Rock. So like, we
had a lot of good shows this season.
Spy X Family was sort of the workhorse series this season, I would say. It continues to maintain a very good level, a very high level of quality. And it obviously, because it's a little bit more slice of lifey, it is not necessarily quite as bombastic, but it's like, it's cute, it's sweet, it is something that you can really easily pick up and watch just like week to week, and it honestly serves as a very nice like cool down series, especially if you've just been watching Chainsaw Man. Some of those episodes. Yeah,
it also has like the occasional spice of like an action sequence that's really well animated.
Yeah, they love their action sequences, and they really ham them up for the anime. And, I mean, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Third season of Mob Psycho 100. I actually have no idea whether or not this adapts the end of the comic. I think it does. Maybe. I mean,
did you?
It felt like an ending.
It feels like the ending.
It feels like the ending, but I haven't read the comic, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
To me it felt like so final, and I know I was reading like the Twitter response to the season, and there were people who were saying that it would be the last anime season. I didn't have any like official confirmation about that, but
I mean that would make sense.
Yeah, it would make sense, right? To me, it felt super final because they wrapped up like everything.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so it was so emotional. I think if this is the last season, which I think it is, then it's a really, really good ending.
I think it's a great finale. It nails it. I mean, obviously there are sort of small things that you could probably nitpick here and there if you are a fan of the comic, and as any sort of adaptation will inevitably lose something in transmission. But as an anime experience, it was like incredible. I would say the animation style of one was translated so gorgeously into anime they kept a
Mhm.
lot of the charm of the original, but like, obviously they, being a professional anime studio, really really went ham on it in a lot of places, and it really shows. I can't remember the specific names of the people that worked on it, but one of them at least a couple of them are super well known. One of them was the storyboard artist for Soul Eater, specifically
Oh.
those like really good scythe fight scenes that Maka
Yeah, yeah,
does.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like, he specifically, I know, worked on those. You can tell any scene that has the like cube debris is like a trademark of his style. I can't remember his name
Oh,
off the top
okay.
of my head. But anyway, it was really good. I think it was adapted really well. The voice cast was frankly like incredible. The pacing felt, on point.
Mhm.
The adaptation felt like really really true to the spirit of the manga, and
Yes.
I mean, I really would like to dedicate like an entire episode to talking about Mob Psycho 100, because I think it is such a fantastic piece of like sincere, sort of heartfelt, like character driven media. And it was so good to see Mob's like entire journey from like, the beginning to now, and you're like, oh, I you could see how much he's grown, like how much he's
Yeah.
like learned to like, be in tune with his emotions. I really liked that the sort of theme of the last couple episodes was the sort of reckoning with like the sort of reckoning that Mob has with his powers, right? Like, he lives kind of in a sort of denial of them, right? He kind of like represses them to a degree. And the finale being a lot about him just like accepting that as a part of him, but also like, being able to recognize like, well, I mean, like, this is a part of me, but not all of these emotions are something that are that I want to express. Like, they're valid that I'm having them, but and then obviously there is the very sort of emotional conclusive climax, right? The arc that is him learning that Reagan doesn't have powers, and obviously
Yeah.
he knew all along that Reagan didn't have powers, but it is like one thing to know it and like to have that sort of like voice inside your head telling you like, oh, he's lying to you, he just wants to use you for
Right.
your powers, right? And another
Yeah.
thing for him to like have the bravery to come out and say like, I was lying to you, right?
Yeah.
It is a show that is not just about Mob's development as a character, but
Mhm.
a lot about Reagan. And
Yes.
it's one of those shows also where if you're watching it as kind of somebody on the older end of the sort of anime spectrum, the older end of the anime spectrum being, of course, anybody over like 25, right? Like, there's only two demographics in anime, and it's like high school students and like old people, right? So, but you really, really get a sense of Reagan. You see the show a lot from Reagan's perspective of just like being an adult that is just like, oh god, I don't know, I don't know what the fuck is happening.
I feel like this is such a good, like, I mean, we know that it's a coming of age story, but it feels like so true to that genre, because you feel like you've watched your child grow up and become like a fully realized adult or more complete person by the end of the show. And you feel so proud of him. You feel you've literally like watched the entire development, and you get to see things from Reagan's perspective, watching Mob and trying to guide Mob onto like the right path, and like kind of get those good parenting vibes, so to speak. Yeah. So yeah, it's wonderful the way that you get to see, not only Mob's growth, but also by the end you get to see all of the characters that he's influenced too, and how he's been able to bring them together and change their lives.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that as a coming of age story, right? It's a coming of age story for Mob as like somebody who is in a very volatile period of sort of like puberty and like that kind of emotional storm. right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is also, in a sense, a coming of age story for Reagan, who in a lot of ways represents a lot of people who sort of kind of become disillusioned with the sort of traditional way of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he used to be a corporate office worker, and it was just something that was unsustainable for him. And he's branched out, and he does this whole other sort of business where he is like scamming people, but on a certain level he is also trying, like, realistically to help people, and in many ways, he does end up being able to do that once Mob comes into his life. And so you have the sort of like, this start where Reagan is kind of this like sleazy con man, and then this end where Reagan is like becoming an adult, right? An adult human being. And you get to see the sort of a very similar arc in Serizawa, who is somebody who's basically like a NEET, kind of, right? Like, he's like the extreme end of, like, he's an adult man that just like has like zero experience in anything, right? And like, he's like completely shut out society and the world, and he also gets to acclimate to the world. He goes and he goes to like school, and he works for Reagan, and like he just becomes integrated into society again. So yeah, Mob Psycho 100, very, very good, very good. I definitely want to give the entire series a rewatch, because I think it would really, like, to get the sort of complete picture. I think you should just watch all of it, and probably read the manga too.
Read the manga too. Yep.
Yeah, I loved Mob Psycho 100, and it was one of my favorite things that came out last year.
It's such a good, complete experience, and it's not too long, not too short. It feels like just right.
It feels just right. A lot of anime never end up getting that third season, and we're, I mean, obviously Mob Psycho is like very, very popular, so I'm glad that it ended up being able to have a conclusion. Which is really great. We got the end of the Dimple arc.
Dimple! Oh!
Yeah, it was so much.
Oh.
It really hit you. It really hit you. Like, episode 6, I think, of Mob Psycho felt like the end of the series, right at the end of the season. And then they just kept going. They just started up again. They're like, okay, next week, here you go. Yeah, I think it was very well put together. All right.
Yes.
Let's talk about Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury. Okay, so at the time that we recorded the anniversary episode, we had not watched the last episode, the last couple episodes. We have now watched the last episode of The Witch from Mercury, and Jesus fucking Christ.
I would still say that even though we now have more context for the rest of the season, that we appropriately placed Witch from Mercury in our anime of the year rankings. Like, I still think that it's worth being up on the list. And then also, like, the ending of the season is such a gut punch, but in like a what's going to happen next kind of way.
Right. You have no idea what's going to happen next. And I will say, I think I still agree with what I said in that wrap-up episode, where a lot of how I will feel about the series as a whole will depend on the execution of the rest of the story.
Yes.
But the first season proposes some really interesting questions, and is like very forward about slapping down some intrigue and mystery, and some like what the fuck, and some some very Gundam themes, let's say.
Yeah. So what I really like about this season is that sometimes with Gundam they kind of jump straight into like the politics and the this is a troubled teen wrapped up in the greater scheme of things, right? But with Witch from Mercury, they kind of take their time with it. They ease you into all of that stuff. You get a little bit of political underpinnings here and there that's going around the children, but for the most part, you're more absorbed in like their kind of like day-to-day academic, like them trying to sort out their lives essentially while they're at school. And then the end of this season shows you, oh yes, you are still in a Gundam anime, by the way. We're going that way. We're pulling the story in that direction now. These are tools of war. You're gonna see some war.
You are going to see some more.
Yeah, and I'm actually really glad that they kind of went in this direction, because sometimes, like, especially for people who don't normally watch Gundam, they're kind of put off by being thrust into the middle of that, even though that's essentially what happens with the characters too. And so some people like that. If you're not as familiar with the genre or that type of storytelling, it can feel very overwhelming. There's like a lot of like names of important political figures and a lot of like, you know, factions that are battling each other over these giant robots. And it can feel like a lot. And so I just really like the way that they structured everything for this show, because it builds all the investment that you need to be able to get into that stuff, you know, in subsequent seasons.
Mm-hmm. I really liked the way that the last episode recontextualized the whole season.
Yes.
Because, you know, when they're sort of in the last sort of quarter, right? Where they're like, I don't want to make weapons of war. Yeah. Right? And you're like, yeah, I mean that's fair, right? And they have like a whole argument about it, and they're like, okay, we'll make like medical equipment or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, yeah, I guess that's fair. And then you get the last episode, and you're like, yeah, these are weapons of war. And,
by the way,
by the way, these are weapons of war, and also Suletta has been manipulated by her mom the whole time, and it probably is like a sleeper agent, like killing machine, which is like,
isn't that crazy?
Jesus Christ,
isn't that crazy? Oh my god, the way they it feels kind of abrupt until you kind of like think back on all of her interactions with her mom, and it's like, oh my god, yeah.
Also, like the whole recontextualization of the saying that Suletta got from her mom, the like, you know, running away is one and moving forward is two.
Yes,
right? Just completely different context.
Yes. Yep. And it feels like like the sleeper agent switch has been turned. Like her mom finally was like, here we go.
I would also say that I think it is really interesting to study all of the characters, all of the like student characters when, you know, the last episode hits, right? When all the shit goes down, basically, mm-hmm. right? Because you have Suletta, who is like really naive, but also like probably brainwashed and like literally cannot understand what is going on, right? And you have Miorine, who is like really grappling with the fact now, right? The sudden realization that these are tools of war, and that, you know, there is a sort of like bloody underbelly to technological development where a lot of it comes from the military industrial complex, right? In America, at least, that is generally quite true. Like, a lot of our technology comes from military tech first, right? You know, like stuff like GPS, and even, you know, the kind of like space race stuff was stuff that was all intended for like military stuff, right? We in the 80s were like, we want orbital lasers that will shoot down nuclear missiles. Like, Christ.
I love the way that this first season has felt like the kind of like childlike utopia that they live in.
Yeah.
But then
the sheltered burden.
Yeah, exactly. The sheltered area, and then now the war is coming, whether you like it or not. You can choose to make these like weapons of war into something that's nice for like humanity and civilization, but interested parties are going to come and use them for, you know, the original intended purpose.
It is also like a very stark reminder that they're basically going to military school, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
they're all like, you know, they're like, oh, the duels, like our pride is on the line. It feels like the, you know, and like at the end of the day, like, you know, the stakes may feel high, but, you know, nobody's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, oh, okay, they're training them to fight in like war, and people are going to die, right? Like you kind of have a Ghoul have this very similar arc where he's like, you know, top dog king duelist boy, and then he gets like dethroned immediately, and like he's like, I don't know what to do in my life anymore, and he just like fucking runs away and becomes like just like a you know, a regular sort of blue collar worker, and then all of a sudden he gets mixed up back into this, and he's like, oh my god, I killed my dad, oh fuck.
Bro, I'm so invested in his character because he got so messed up.
It is truly one of the most like jacked up things that could happen to a guy that just has had nothing going for him the whole series. Like, you know, obviously he starts the show as a kind of a pompous asshole, and you root against him, but after that you're just like, I kind of feel bad now. Like his dad sucks a lot of ass, and then like his dad is like, he does suck, but also you're like, I'm not sure I wanted to watch this, like, this little boy kill his dad and suddenly become a man with blood on his hands, right?
It really hurt too, because then the dad shows that he cares about his son.
Right,
you know,
he shows that on some level he does care.
Yes, exactly.
I like it would honestly be easier if you knew your dad hated you, right? You could at least compartmentalize that and just be like, yeah, I mean that's like really fucked up, but like, you know, he never came around. But like, no, the fact that he was just like, oh, I'm so proud of you, son. It's like,
what?
Oh,
but he killed you.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm really excited for the next season.
Yes.
I think it's coming pretty soon, actually. I think it's coming like next season. So
yo, let's go.
Ooh, baby.
We gonna be there.
Yeah, I will be watching with both of my eyeballs.
Not just one, both.
Nope, just both at the same time.
Wow.
Bocchi the Rock. This show needs no introduction. It ended up being the like most popular thing that aired in a season where Chainsaw Man was also airing, which is actually fucking insane.
That's crazy. I guess the reception that I saw didn't really talk a lot about this show, so that actually makes me really happy to hear, because I think it deserves as much recognition because it is such a good, solid, like heartfelt show.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about Bocchi the Rock is that I think it is a show that resonated so much specifically with artists, right? Because it is a show about making art, right? And what that means, and like the sort of different motivations, and like, you know, what does it mean to make things for an audience, right? And so as a result, like, I think you got this huge flood of Bocchi the Rock fan art, and it really kind of blew up almost overnight, and it is kind of wild because it's not super often that, and I think I mentioned this, it's not super often that a season will course correct and something will suddenly become the most popular thing. A lot of the times, like, the most hype thing is the thing that maintains the most momentum, right? And it's not to say Chainsaw Man didn't. I think Chainsaw Man was still one of the biggest things that happened, right? But also, this season was so ridiculously stacked with like such high quality anime that it was, you know, it had a lot of competition. And I mean, Chainsaw Man still, I think, ended up coming out like as at least number 2 or tied, you know, for number 1 with Bocchi. But Bocchi the Rock ended up being like this perfect storm of being this very heartfelt story about making art, right, and being vulnerable, and especially because Bocchi is such a loner, and the lyrics that she writes are, you know, for people that didn't have the glowing, sparkling springtime youth, right? You know, it's kind of for the people that had more of those like loner experiences. I think that's a lot of the reason why it resonated with people, because it's kind of refreshing. And part of the reason that, according to the mangaka, the creator of Bocchi the Rock, you know, part of the reason that it ended up taking that direction was because, you know, it, like, she wanted to make the series distinct from K-On!, right? Like, if you're in the business of making an anime that is about cute girls playing instruments, like, you are inevitably going to draw discussions and be compared to K-On!. But I think that this is such a different take that it is like, it's like so refreshing, right? And like, the thing is, like, K-On! Is good in its own right. You know, there's a reason that K-On! Kind of is this sort of kingpin of the Moe Blob sort of era, right? But like, Bocchi the Rock has this, like, I would say that it sheds the optimism that K-On! Has, the relentless optimism, and kind of introduces just sort of like an element of realism and an element of groundedness, and I think that goes a long way in making sure that the main sort of themes and story stay grounded while the characters get to do all the kind of like wacky, goofy, you know, gags and stuff, right? Like, the animation team obviously had so much fun making the show. You can tell that there's all these like weird, wacky bits. Like, they put a lot of work into just like animating little small character details about each character in a way where it is indicative of their personality. Like, there's a lot of visual storytelling, a lot of very casual visual storytelling that that happens in the course of the animation, and the animation really feels like its own kind of distinct entity from the manga.
Yeah, I actually like that you brought up the whole K-On! Thing, because I didn't think about K-On! Once while watching the show.
It's very easy to go and like not remember K-On!, like, except for maybe at the very beginning when you're like, oh, it's about cute girls doing band stuff.
Right, and it's not that's not even to knock on like K-On! Or anything. It's just that I think the author more than succeeded in their goal of like making this distinct from K-On! It's just a completely different story. Yeah, and I feel like it's one that, you know, we can resonate with, because to me, I feel like it's more easy to relate to Bocchi the Rock if you're, you know, our age or younger. You know, there's a bit of that, like, a little bit of that jaded sentimentality, but also a little bit of that anxiety for the future, you know? And I like that. I like that it shows like a true exploration of like, it's not just an optimistic dream. Like, there is of course room for that kind of storytelling, but this one takes such a distinct tone of like, you know, worrying about the future, and also like worrying about making friends now, and how do I enjoy life now. I would also say that I think that there is a lot that sort of a lot of the charm of the show comes from the fact that it is so, like, obviously the manga itself is very well like researched, and you can kind of tell that where the inspirations are coming from, especially if you're kind of into the Japanese like music scene. The main band members of Kesaku Band, all of their I believe all of their last names come from members of Asian Kung Fu Generation. Okay.
And I learned that Hiroi Kikuri, the name Hiroi comes from the band Hachijuhachi Junryo Kase, which is like a Japanese like alt sort of math, possibly acid rock. People always like quibble about like the genres. It's like, oh no, this is more like surf rock than it is acid rock actually. But like, self-described acid rock, right?
Sure.
The stylings of Hiroi, and I think like the fact that they captured the genres of music that they were trying to portray very well is a very big strength of the anime. They did such a good job with that. And that is a dimension that you won't get in the manga. Like, that is part of what makes the anime so unique and special, right?
You get to even hear the music through the anime.
Yeah, and it's good, and it's good. And they
it's good.
Came out with an entire like album of songs, like even with songs that they didn't put into the show, and Apparently at some point they're gonna release, I think on like the Blu-ray or something, they're gonna release the full version of the song that Sick Hack performs in that episode. I don't remember which episode it is. But like that song sent me on kind of down a rabbit hole where I was like, Japanese acid rock, huh? So I started kind of looking into the stuff, right? And now it is like taking up a considerable portion of my brain right now. Is just like, oh shit, I really like this. It led me to a genre that I really vibe with.
Oh, good.
I think that one of the most beautiful things about being alive is discovering your new favorite music. Like, and you do that like constantly. You do it like year after year, right? Like
Sure.
you'll always find something and you're just like, this is my new favorite thing of all time. And that is a lot of how I feel. And like, yeah, like Japanese acid rock is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I would just say like, Bocchi the Rock is such a good little show. There are like little sort of quibbles you can have with it, right? You can kind of point out that sometimes like they overdo it a little bit with the animation. Like sometimes it's better to let a joke sort of like sit for a little bit. There's also just the just the sheer fact that like they had some amount of stuff they had to work around in terms of adapting the story. And what I heard was that the school festival arc takes place like relatively soon in the manga, like relatively close to the beginning, but there's a very large arc that happens after that, and they didn't want to get caught in that really awkward like between seasons thing. But hopefully with the popularity of season 1 of Bocchi the Rock, they managed to do the second season, because I would love to watch more of it, and I'm really curious. I might go back and read the manga to know what happens in the story. But man, the anime was like something really special, like kind of like really kind of lightning in a bottle, like kind of came at the perfect time. At least for me personally, like it came to me and resonated with me at the sort of time that I needed it. And as a result, it kind of is one of my favorite things now, right? I'm attaching memories to it now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the charms about, starting up a new series and even anime or whatnot, is that you never know, like, timing-wise when a series will kind of end up landing with you, but when it hits that sweet spot of like, you need this type of story in your life at that moment in your life, like it can easily just escalate like a show like that to an even higher degree. Yeah, for me, I enjoyed this anime so much that when the ending came around, I was like, how are they gonna end it? And then they just kind of end it rather like a little quietly, right? I was like,
yeah,
oh, I want more now. I want to see them some more.
Yeah, I mean they did actually, if you go back and look, they actually did a very incredible job of adapting the story in such a way that the energy is carried throughout the last couple episodes, despite the fact that they're basically adapting like not a lot of material. They're extrapolating quite a bit out of it, and I think to a certain extent you can feel that, right? But at the same time, as a sort of anime only experience, it's pretty solid.
It is good. It is good. It didn't feel like it didn't feel quite as trite as and then things go on. I mean, that is essentially what the ending is that they continue on with their high school lives. But emotionally, it feels like a good conclusion to the season. And so
it does, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because like thematically it works quite well as a sort of season ender, right? Because the whole thing about Bocchi is that she just like can't socialize with people at school. Like school is this really big hurdle for her. And so as a result, the school festival and her playing in the school festival and having that hiccup and picking up the glass jar and then just like going ham with it, right?
Yeah.
With the fucking rock and slide, right? Like it shows that she has had some growth, right? And at the same time, it does not let her have that victory so easily right? Because immediately after that, she tries to do that stage dive and
Oh,
fucking
that hurt
flops.
me.
And you're just like, yeah,
It hurt to watch.
Right? I really enjoyed it because it wasn't just like, oh, like she's fixed now, she's better, right? Like she's made like some progress, right? It's like you can tell she's made some progress, but you know it's not that easy.
Yeah. Mentally, she still has a long way to go in terms of like reading situational awareness and whatnot, but like you already knew throughout the whole show that she had the technical proficiency to be able to play well. It's just that she didn't have the confidence to do so, especially in front of a stage. She only had enough confidence to do so like in her closet in front of a microphone to record on the internet. So for you to be able to see that growth of like, hey, she can tear it up on the stage if she really like zones in and like hones in on that. And then after she's done playing, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
we've got Bocchi again.
She gets her little victories, but then you have to be reminded that she's still Bocchi.
She's still Bocchi, but it's so sweet. It's so endearing. I love her.
Yeah. Also, like the fucking vocal performances were incredible. The very famous at this point Bocchi like scream. The story behind that is apparently they were initially going to like process it in post to make it, sound more metallic, but the voice actress just came out with that scream and they were like, oh, it's fine as it is, Jesus.
We don't need to do anything to it. It's perfect.
So that was, Bocchi the Rock, one of my favorite things now.
It's
very
great.
Cool.
I wanna own the music. It's so good.
Yeah, it's all on Spotify if you want to listen to it.
Nice. Good.
Okay, Akiba Maid War, which okay. So here's the thing about Akiba Maid War, right? I had no idea what to expect from this show.
Me neither! Yeah, me neither!
And for me, honestly, as good as everything else is, Akiba Maid War really feels like the sleeper hit of the season. Like, nobody's talking about Akiba Maid War, but
I'm shocked that no one is talking about it, and yet at the same time, I kind of get it, because the way that it presents itself, it doesn't feel like, like it doesn't feel like it has like the iconic characters for you to latch onto, like Chainsaw Man or Spy Family. It doesn't have any of like the wholesome vibes maybe that you might get from Bocchi, where it's like, I can vibe with the message and the kind of slice of life thing. It just has its own like kind of like corner of the anime world that it just like springs forth from, and it's so incredible to watch, because especially if you don't have any expectations of the show, I think that's probably like the best way to go into it.
Okay, if you haven't seen Akiba Maid War, I would highly recommend going and just watching it like now. Just pause the episode, go watch it. Akiba Maid War is the anime of all time for me, honestly. Like Akiba Maid War is so like it to me has this vibe that is really similar to anime in the kind of like early to mid 2000s, like anime that just like didn't really give a fuck and kind of did whatever they wanted. Like,
oh my god, yeah,
it's an original anime, which like I love me an original anime, right? And they went fucking ham with it. Like, I have never seen an anime that had like such a ridiculous concept played so fucking straight to the point of absurdity. This show is so fucking funny.
It is hilarious, and I love that you said like this show has zero restraint whatsoever, and you get a lot of like when you see other shows, you can see that like they're really well polished. They have like a certain like directorial like vision, and it's very tightly like wound together thematically and whatnot. And this has themes and it has story, and it's just willing to like push everything to the nth degree. It's willing to go above and beyond what another another story might do, right? Like
So-
you would expect some level of restraint to like kind of keep everything reined in. There's no reins here. They just go full hog.
No, yeah, absolutely. They just fucking hit the gas and they never let up, right?
Yeah.
Like, there is obviously, some of the episodes in the middle kind of coast a little bit, but like,
Sure.
still the stuff that happens is fucking insane. Akiba Maid War feels like if you condensed Gintama into a one season show, right? Like, it's basically okay. So Akiba Maid War is basically this like gangster movie, like this fucking mafia movie,
Yes.
right? Played completely straight, except it's about maid cafes as the gangs in like the 90s to 2000s in Akiba, and that's the concept they go with, and they fucking keep going with it, right? They're like the maids, they have this territory war, and they shoot each other with guns, and you're like, okay, all right. And there's an episode where like people are fucking dealing in anime figurines. And they're killing each other over the anime figurines. And there's an episode where somebody fucking dies and they play baseball. And that's just the episode. They just play baseball.
What's so interesting about this anime, because I was trying to describe it to someone else about like what I was watching, and to me at least, maybe I'm just not very good with like trying to describe what Akiba Maid War is, but like it almost feels like no matter what we say about it, it will never amount to what it actually is. It just is that crazy, but also that good.
The experience of watching it truly is just something that cannot be captured in words. It is an experience, and I will say that Akiba Maid War is so, like, it's so fucking absurd and ridiculous, and there's no reason that any of it should work, and yet it plays everything so straight and, like, ridiculously straight to the point of absurdity, where everything just becomes fucking hilarious, and then all of a sudden things get really serious, and you're like,
yeah.
Have I developed an emotional attachment to these characters? Like, do I actually fucking care about this? Like, do I fucking care about her, like, blood brother? But they swapped name tags, and like that's a whole thing, and like suddenly, like, one of the old guard members of the fucking maid yakuza comes back from prison, and she's busting heads, and then she just gets fucking gunned down by the upper staff at her own organization. Like,
to like the way that, like, even if you were to like read the synopsis or like see some of the promotional imagery, it feels like on the surface, it's like this kind of like LOL random humor type of anime, right? You know what I'm talking about. Like the kind that are like very surface level. They're just there for the laughs, and it's like very random humor, right? It's like the humor is in the absurdity, right? But this show somehow manages to contain like through lines for everything that they're doing. Like there's a scene in the beginning where someone gets murdered, and it's a quintessential plot point to the climax of the show. And that's like, oh my god, I remember that scene now. What?
It's also just like the whole sort of like thematic through line of like, I want to make a world where maids don't have to kill each other. Like, that's where we are. Like, the characters in the show, one of them is a jaded maid who has taken up killing despite not having wanted to, and the other is somebody who still has that innocence of like not killing people, and she wants to make a better world for maids, and like they have a rapport and a dynamic, and like you get to know them, and then one of them fucking dies. She just fucking dies. Like, she just gets fucking Kazuma Kiryu stabbed by like a walking passerby, and you're like, is she dead?
Yeah.
And she's dead. She's dead for the rest of the show. Like, there's no fake out. She's just fucking dead.
That's why it does so well with integrating the gangster Yakuza plot lines into the show. Like, it includes all of those tropes, but in a way you just wouldn't expect them to come up because it's a show about maids.
And it's about animal maids, and the gang is like they're pig maids, and they have they do pig puns, and they're like oink oink, and
it still manages to catch you off guard even after you're familiar with the conceit. It's honestly like I would just watch it, man. It
is unbelievable.
It is so incredible. If you manage to watch the entire thing, it is a worthwhile experience. I have to put it out there. You might be like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know what they're talking about after the first episode or whatever, right? You're like, oh wow, that's far from what I expected. But how will they go? How will they proceed from there? And it just keeps getting better during the rest of the show. And then the ending hits you and you're like, that was an amazing ending.
Yeah, they fucking nailed it. They nailed the ending.
It.
Like, full 10-point landing on that ending.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Like, woo! And
yeah.
also just like, man, you could tell they had so much fucking fun writing this and animating it. They're like, fuck, we're gonna put the balls to the walls, man. Like, skeet skeet, motherfucker. Jesus Christ. It is a raucous time. Like, it is truly an experience, and you can tell they had so much fun making it, and you can tell that, like, it is the truest sort of example of the adage that, like, when you have comedy, you have to play it as straight as possible for other people to find it funny. And this is like the truest example of that. It's so fucking funny. Like, there were moments where I was like, what the fuck is happening? My jaw is like on the floor. There are moments where I'm fucking busting a gut laughing. And there are moments where, like, I kind of feel something for these characters. I'm like, oh, jeez. Like, that's an emotion I'm feeling. Oh, man. Christ alive. Okay.
Yeah.
In a world where, like, and, like, I'm really sad that I didn't get to talk about Akiba Maid War more in the wrap up, because it really shot up my rankings, right? But in a world where this aired in any other season, like, it would be my favorite thing of the season, right? And it just so happened to air in, like, one of the strongest seasons in living memory.
Yeah, I wish we had been able to finish it before we did our anniversary episode, because I think it would have definitely made a spot up there, because by that point we hadn't gotten to, like, the real meat of the season yet. We were still kind of in the middle. So it would have been very different. Akiba Maid War would have definitely made it up there.
Jesus Christ. It really might have. It really might have. I probably would have at least put it in honorable mentions.
Yes,
I think.
yes, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely at least honorable mention. Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
Right.
I'm the villainess, so I'm taming the final boss. Did you finish this?
I did not finish it. Did you?
No.
Oh no! Neither of us finished it.
This to me felt like the most misplaced expectation.
Oh yeah, we were looking forward to this. Like,
I was looking forward to this very heavily because I really enjoyed the manga adaptation.
Yes,
and
we love the manga.
It just wasn't as good, which is sad to say. I remember almost nothing about it, and honestly, it may even just be that the first arc is just better.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would just recommend reading the manga definitely, and then if you're interested in more of the story, maybe check out the light novel.
Maybe hit up the light novel.
Yeah, the anime, like, it's not that the anime is, like, offensively bad. It's just that, like, I don't think they had, like, the time or the resources to really, like,
you can
dig into it.
You can tell it was just one of those, like, this is a popular genre, let's crank it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's essentially why we didn't finish it.
Okay, all right. So before we talk about the stuff that Renu watched that I didn't, so the elephant in the room, right? Is Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
we're not talking about Chainsaw Man this episode because the next episode of the Absolute Territory podcast will be about Chainsaw Man. So there's your spoiler. There's your spoiler. That's what the next episode is about. That's why we're not talking about it. So,
we're not talking about it because we hate it.
Yeah. Tatsuki Fujimoto eats dirt.
Yeah, we'll have a whole episode to discuss the anime and the manga.
And the manga. Well, we will cover Part 1, Chainsaw Man Part 1, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
Because Chainsaw Man Part 2 is still in serialization. Hard to make any statements about it.
Sure.
I do really like Part 2 of Chainsaw Man, by the way. I have been keeping up with it. And yeah, it is the manga. It is the manga of all time. Tatsuki Fujimoto. Nobody does it like Tatsuki Fujimoto, let me tell you. So, tell me about the rest of Blue Lock, because we did watch at least a couple episodes of it together.
Yes. Okay. So I will say that for the 2 sports anime that I watched this season, Blue Lock and Yowamushi Pedal, they both continued on into the next season, into winter 2023. So I'll just say that I think for you, because you're not like super into sports anime, you're more into like, I don't know, at least for Blue Lock, you were more into like the crazy psychological stuff that was going on.
Right. Yeah.
I think you hopped off at the right time because it proceeds into a lot more of the sports stuff. That's not to say that's not at least riveting to me, but that's because I'm more interested in that stuff as well.
I enjoy the sports aspect of a sports anime as long as I am kind of invested in the characters. Like Blue Lock to me presented me with like 20 of the most insane characters I've ever seen in my life, and that is the perfect recipe for getting me interested in something, right?
Sure.
The problem I find with a lot of sports anime is they're hard for me to get into because it's really hard for me to just like, I mean, like I know that as a genre, sports anime kind of has these tropes, but it's really hard for me to get into like the enjoyment of those tropes, really.
Sure.
Is what I would say.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that, and I would say that Blue Lock has some of it, but for the most part, stays consistent with how absolutely bat crazy the entire conceit is.
Yeah.
And it continues to like not only stay on target, but also like escalate it the more the story goes on. So there is at least that part of it, but I would say after that intro part, it kind of like goes into more of like exploring like the dynamic of what it's like to have a team full of egotistical strikers. Like no one knows, like they have to like appoint a random guy to be the goalie, right? And he doesn't want to be goalie, he wants to be a striker, right? It's like that kind of thing. Where they have to appoint different team positions to people who don't play those positions and have no interest in doing so, but they have to be a functional team in order to win and advance, further into the Blue Lock system. And I will say that like it is like quintessentially the opposite of like your wholesome sports anime.
The anti-Haikyuu.
Yeah, it is the anti-Haikyuu. It's one of my favorite sports anime is Big Wind Up, which is wholesome baseball anime. It is the opposite, the anti-Big Wind Up. It is so in a normal wholesome anime, right? You would have like, you got your teammates, right? And you're like, wow, my teammates are so strong. I'm gonna be inspired by them, and I'm gonna learn how to do more things and provide for the team, and like, and do things like that, right? In Blue Lock, it's like a negative to be a good teammate. But on top of that, you still have to win, and you still have to have teammates. So what do you do? Well, in Blue Lock, the logic is, of course, when you've got a good teammate who has talents that you don't have, you devour them. That is the actual verbiage that they have in the show. You devour them. And so it's not like actual physical cannibalism, but it's like you cannibalize their talents, right? You're like, okay, well, this person is really good at juggling the ball or whatever, like that kind of stuff. And so you the main character especially is on team, I'm going to devour everyone so that I can be the best.
Jesus Christ.
He has his own team, and he's like learning this more and more as the series goes on, and so it just becomes more and more absurd to the point that like whenever like there's one point where he brings someone onto his team that he knows is like a hot dumpster fire of ego, right? But he's really good at soccer, and so it's one of those situations where it's like you defeat the team and therefore you get to pick one of their members to join your team, right? And so rather than picking the guy who was like a little weaker but like more team oriented, he chose the selfish prick who's really good at scoring goals to join their team because he's really, he's good at soccer. But of course, when you bring someone onto your team who's like that, he's not going to be willing to work with you. He wants to do his own thing. He's like, give me the ball all the time so that I can score. And so then the main character is just like, well, I can't rein you in. I can't change you at all. So I'm just going to devour your talents. I'm going to make it so that I don't even need you on my team and win. I'll win without you. And that's what he did. He won without the guy. He humiliated him.
Oh my God.
So, it's a great show. It still continues to be riveting in the next season as well.
I feel like Blue Luck is one of those shows that you have to watch and enjoy without taking too terribly seriously because, like, you know that the guy that makes Blue Luck doesn't fucking believe that... like, he doesn't believe that this is true or possible, right? Like,
no.
You have to know, right?
It has that self-awareness about it, yeah.
I did recently learn, though, that the manga has a scene that specifically calls out two of the most famous soccer players in Japan by name, and they removed that for the anime, and people were like, you should have kept that in.
Really? What did it say? I'm so curious.
I mean, so the line where he's just like, Japan has never won like a World Cup. So in the manga, apparently somebody brings up those two players and is like, what about these like really good Japanese players? And it's like, have they ever won the World Cup?
No way!
I can see why maybe you might, for sponsorship reasons, possibly not want to put that in your anime. But that's fucking incredible.
That is legendary, dude. Yeah, I like this series a lot. I've been like, as it's been releasing weekly, I've been looking forward to the updates. So it's a good sports anime. Also, it's crazy.
All right.
Yowamushi Pedal is more of the same. If you like Yowamushi Pedal, you'll enjoy the latest season. They're at the big race. They're trying to win. That's it. I also watched JoJo Stone Ocean Part 3. It's the last part.
Nice.
Yeah. I got to see the conclusion because I hadn't read the manga for JoJo's yet. And so I didn't know at all how this was going to end.
Stone Ocean Part 3.
And so now I understand why you you had a certain reaction to Stone Ocean's ending. Like I don't remember exactly what you had said. But I just remember you had an emotion and you were like, oh. And I was like, huh, okay, I wonder what's gonna happen. I have no idea. And boy, I had no idea.
The JoJo Stone Ocean as a whole is like this fucking roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
The thing about parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 is that at the end of the day, they're pretty like straightforward in terms of what the actual plot is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, part 1 is about Jonathan trying to defeat Dio. Part 2 is about Joseph trying to beat a bunch of Mayan vampires. Part 3 is about Dio being back and being a problem, and Jotaro being like, well, fuck, I guess I'll have to beat the shit out of you, right? Part 4 is like, oh, fuck, Yoshikage Kira, we gotta get that dude. Right? It's like a small town murder mystery. It's pretty cool. Part 5 is like, like a gangster stuff, right? And then part 6 happens and you're like, I don't actually know what the overarching plot is here. Like something is happening, and
I think it's like the successor for Dio, right? It's like the priest, like Pucci, is like inspired by Dio.
Yeah.
And, like,
so the thing is, it's kind of like Dio is back in some small way, and maybe there's a Dio baby, but then that aspect of the story gets entirely forgotten about like immediately. I
forgot about the
it's
baby.
It's there for like a little bit, and they're like, oh, it's an invisible baby, and then like it just doesn't come up again, really.
It was so important for a little while.
They're like, oh, he's gonna grow a new Dio, and then he's like, nah, never mind. And you're like, wait, what? What's going on here? And then they just fucking restart the whole universe. And
I had no idea that that's where it would end up at the end, because they were like, oh, everyone's dying, and you know, and in like previous seasons of JoJo. In previous parts, I mean, they would be like, "Oh, all your comrades are dying. Now's the time for the JoJo to stand up and like, you know, really like either unlock more powers or like, you know, they'll do something smart or whatever to like defeat the final antagonist." But instead, I guess spoilers for like the end of Stone Ocean, they have everyone died and the whole world starts over, and it's like. And they have like the little. What I actually kind of like the flip though, that rather than having Jolene solve everyone's problems, she manages to make sure that the little kid stays safe, so that he'll be the one to save the world and defeat the priest. And somehow after that resets the world to a point where like the priest never existed, and then all of his comrades are like, it's like the happy AU ending.
right. It's really quite interesting. I will also say that it has JoJo Part 6 has the most terrifying stand, which is the one that turns everybody into snails.
It was so gross.
It was that's scary, man. I don't want to become a snail.
I had a really great time watching it. I think they did a good job, probably adapting the original source material. I think so too. Didn't feel, yeah.
Although,
didn't feel like...
you know, I didn't watch it, so. But just going off your reaction, I think they probably did a good job.
I think they sold it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the ocean. Sometimes the anime does clear up some things that are in the manga, because like they have the sort of benefit of hindsight, and they can like kind of stitch some stuff together. So I imagine it probably felt more cohesive than the manga did, at least in some small way.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there were times where I was definitely lost as to like what the priest's powers were, what this person's powers were, and whatnot. But I was still enjoying the show.
A little messy.
Yeah, it got really messy because his powers kept changing, and that's why I was like, I don't understand what's happening now. And Part
7 is more straightforward, but it's also more bonkers.
Oh, good. I'm actually really looking forward to Part 7. I'm hoping they'll animate that soon, because I don't know where the story's gonna go now that they've reset the universe.
People have been waiting for Part 7 to be animated forever.
Yeah? Oh, good.
So I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely I might go back and watch Stone Ocean. I'll definitely pick up for Part 7 when it starts airing, because I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it. Like, I don't know if you remember anything about when I told you anything about it. If you don't remember anything about Part 7, or if I didn't say anything about Part 7, I'm not going to say anything, because I need to be there when you experience it.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember anything aside from the fact that there was like a time reset. I didn't realize that it was at the end of Stone Ocean. I just, knew that it was going to happen.
The timeline gets
7.
reset, and then it happened. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
Anyway. Shall we talk? You want to tell me about Tiger and Bunny 2 Part 2?
Yeah, well, I mean, I talked about it during the
the
anniversary episode briefly. But yeah, I would say like just to touch on it, since it is a part of the season, that overall it's a really good ending to the series. So if you like Tiger and Bunny, it's a satisfying conclusion. We had a couple of shows this season that have really good endings. I'm actually really happy about that. You know, the ending's like
really quite
the hardest part to nail. Yeah, quite pleased. Yeah, that one also has an excellent ending. So yeah, I would check it out if you like Tiger and Bunny.
Fair enough.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. I guess that's it for the season. We did manage to keep it relatively short.
We did. Oh my gosh. Look at that.
I think that is probably because we didn't talk about Chainsaw Man. So look forward to that episode. It will come out at some point.
Yes.
I can't really guarantee when that's gonna come out, but okay. Fingers crossed. Knock on fucking wood. I think we're about back on schedule now. Now that the season is over.
At the very least, it'll be our next non-seasonal episode. Chainsaw
Man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So who are you and where can we find you on the internet?
Hola. I'm Renu, also known as Swan. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. You can find me everywhere else, Twitter, Facebook, whatnot, at swandrawn. I have finished streaming all of Romancing Saga Minstrel Song. I say all of, but I only did one run. There's 8 characters.
Yahoo.
I did the campaign for 1 character. It was a lot of fun. It's a very, very quirky, niche JRPG, if that's your vibe. I have all the VODs up on my Twitch channel. And this Friday, we will be starting a playthrough of Potionomics. It was gifted to me by a friend. Yeah.
I played through that game, and it was really cute.
Yeah. I'm really excited. Chat voted for it to be the next game that we play at, so I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, Potionomics is very cute. I definitely want to hear your thoughts after you finish it. Whenever you finish it. I think I clocked about 45, 50 hours into it.
Whoa, nice.
So it has some legs. It has some legs.
Good.
I would say as a sort of tip for Potionomics, a lot of people found themselves kind of soft locked in it because they just basically couldn't proceed past the first boss. Just focus on upgrades.
Oh, okay.
Like I would just say like upgrades are really important, so make sure you get them kind of as early as possible.
Okay.
And if you do that, you should be fine.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah. So that is like that is the tip that I had going into Potionomics, and so as a gift, I will gift that knowledge unto you.
Yes.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
Cool.
I probably won't be able to pop in because you always stream during my D&D time.
Oh, that's totally fine. What about you?
You can find me all the places at Literal Soup, and I am working on some personal stuff, some personal writing projects, which is nice. I want to start streaming again, but I'd say that very quite tentatively because there's a couple of games on my stream backlog that I really want to get to. It just hasn't been in the cards for my schedule yet, but hopefully I will be able to start kind of integrating it back into my schedule of like, you know, at least one stream a week that is separate from our Ace Attorney stream would be good, I think, for me. I didn't talk about this in the catch up, but I swapped sort of healthcare providers recently. That is quite a big thing that happened, and I got a recommendation for a psychiatrist, and I went in and I got a diagnosis for ADHD, and now I finally got that diagnosis, and I am somewhat medicated. I am not on stimulants, but I'm on a different medication. But yeah, I mean let me tell you, it's a night and day difference.
It's helping?
Well, the medication is helping in some regards and not helping in others. So basically, because I have ADHD and also like quite a mild depression, right? I talked about the mild depression stuff, but I do actually have mild depression, right? It's not like major, it's not clinical, but so I'm basically on an antidepressant, and it actually has been doing quite a lot for my energy levels. It feels like, obviously, I think you can probably tell last half of last year and a little bit into this year, I just haven't had energy to do anything. But this feels like my energy levels are back up. It means that I can more reasonably kind of do certain things. But anyway, it's an ongoing process. Like we're talking, like I have meetings and we're talking about like how effective the medication is and what it's helping with and what it isn't helping with. And yeah, I mean it just feels really great to be heard,
I think that this I would hope it ends up being like a really positive like force in your life to be able to actually get the care that you've been needing for a long time.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I have noticed, like, at least like in the past like week or so, that you've been more on top of things. So I'm hoping that that's like a little indication.
You can tell because the podcast episodes are finally coming out again. like straight up, no joke. That is part of it. All right.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm hoping it'll keep going in a good direction for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will. I really like the place that I'm going to.
Oh, good.
All right. Yeah. Okay, our openings by Scott2 Network. Our endings by Topical. And the patrons we are going to thank today. I forgot to pull up the Patreon. Oops.
Don't you dare forget them.
Oops. Let me
our wonderful honey bun Patreons.
let me just pull that back up.
How dare you close the page? It should be open at all times. So you may thank them at all times.
Sometimes I forgore. Let's see. Patrons we are thanking this episode are Evan Williams, Magpie Mirror Test, Claire, Shonda Cherubel, and Dylan Boats. Thank you so much for your support.
Yay! Thank you.
We really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed the postcards. Those were fun.
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's it for us. Woo. We will see you next time.
See you next time.
さようなら。また明日ね。